Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the 300 bird challenge. Before the end of this year, we want to see 300 different bird species. We're trying to fill that circle in the top corner of the screen, make it all white. In this episode, we're at Algonquin Park. In a moment, I'll tell you about some of the birds we want to see and a surprise guest that we'll have later in the video. We'll be back after this. First stop, the West Gate at Algonquin Park. We needed to just nip into the office for a moment to renew our Provincial Parks Pass for 2024. After all, we're doing this birding challenge, I'm sure we'll make good use of the Provincial Parks of Ontario. Speaking of birding, let's just get on with it. Let's go to our first birding stop. Okay Sarah, where are we today?
Algonquin Park.
That's right. I'm not going to talk too much about Algonquin Park. I've covered it in previous videos, but if you are interested, maybe go back, watch the last video I did. It's also where we completed our 250 bird challenge of last year, so it's a fun video to watch anyway, but I talk about the size a little bit more. Today, talking about bird species, we're hoping to pick up some different winter finches, pine siskins, pretty good chance of evening grosbeak. What else, Sarah?
Crossbills, redpolls.
Yeah, so stick with us as we take a look around. We're starting at the old airfield, possibly won't spend too long here because it's quite snowy, but we'll kind of skirt around the tree lines here. We're already hearing a few different species, so let's go take a look. The airfield was pretty quiet and very snowy, but we did see this common raven flying overhead. Now, it's not the best shot, but don't worry, there's plenty more common ravens to come in this video. We scoured the trees near the car park and we wandered around a little bit, but honestly most of what we saw was actually along some of the roads. A common behaviour among some of the finch species is to consume minerals as part of their diet, which would include road salt, and here's some pine siskins doing just that. The larger bird in this shot is a female red crossbill. Now we were due to meet a friend of mine at the visitors centre, so we left pretty quickly and drove along a couple of snowy roads to go and meet him. Hey Rick.
Good to see you again. How was the drive?
Good, yours?
I'm Rick.
Hi,
Nice
Sarah.
to meet you finally.
Sarah, Rick, Sarah, you've met now. Okay guys, we're going to go to the visitors centre now. This is my friend Rick. He started following me quite early on YouTube. I started following him and we kind of got talking. We've met a few times and now he's in a video with me. Visitor Centre, Algonquin Visitor Centre is just behind. We're going to see if we can find some more birds to add to our bird count. We went out onto the deck and it was awesome to see just how many birds were flying around. The vast majority were evening grosbeaks, which are the birds you can predominantly hear in the background. They're stocky looking birds with thick beaks, for which the grosbeak family is obviously known. As for their range and where you can find them, well, that could be a video all in itself. Forgive me viewers, I'm going to focus on Ontario to try and keep this as short as I can. Evening grosbeaks, like most finches, are highly eruptive. When the food is good, the grosbeak is good, and they can be seen through a wide area, often in large numbers because they tend to travel in flocks. When their food sources are scarce, perhaps due to climate conditions, well, the grosbeak will also be scarce. Well, let's generalise about their range a little bit. They can be seen quite commonly around Algonquin Park during the winter, northwards to probably around the tree line, but outside of winter, they're going to be a bit more thin on the ground. Their range shifts northwards a bit, and they're also quite secretive birds during breeding season. Hey, I did warn you it was going to be pretty general information. Anyway, at the end of the day, Algonquin Park's Visitors Centre is a good place to see evening grosbeaks during the winter, thanks to the fact that the staff there put out bird feeders pretty consistently. The grosbeaks appear kind of nervous here, looking around from the trees. They're on their guard for predators and other aggressive birds like blue jays that will try to dominate the area. They're waiting for social cues amongst their flock to decide when it's safe to land on one of the bird feeders to eat, knowing that while they do so, they're more vulnerable in that position. Anyway, they're a very cool bird, bright, large, noisy in their flocks, and it was a bird that we were all hoping to see. We also saw some more red crossbills. Our first hairy woodpecker of the year was hanging out at a suet feeder. And there were a few American goldfinch around in the trees. and we also saw a few more pine siskin as well. Okay guys, we've just been to the visitor centre and we've added a few new birds to our list. We've seen lots of pine siskins flying around already today, lots more over there too. We have seen a hairy woodpecker, that's a new one for the year. And we've also seen lots of lovely looks at evening grosbeaks, which I think is a bird all three of us really enjoyed watching. We're going to move on now to
Spruce Bog.
the Spruce Bog. We're going to take a walk around there. There's a feeder there. We'll see if we can find any more species. Maybe we can find a grouse. Stay tuned guys, back in a moment. Spruce Bog often looks pretty in the winter with the coniferous trees hugging the snow on their lush green backdrop. We spent a few minutes entertaining the black-capped chickadees. And there was also a cantankerous raven near the trailhead. Although, is there any other kind of raven besides the cantankerous one? More goldfinch and pine siskin, like the one on the left, also joined us. Alright guys, it's pretty quiet here at Spruce Bog, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk to Rick a little bit and introduce him to you guys. He started subscribing to me way back when I first started working on YouTube. Probably had about 200 subscribers back then.
No, actually you were 119 subscribers, and this was back in 2018.
That's going back a while.
I thought 119, I feel sorry for the guy, I'll subscribe. Now he has more subscribers than I do.
Speaking of which, if you're willing to help out my friend Rick here, if you subscribe to his channel, what's the name of your channel?
Casey Oingo.
You want to spell it? I'll put it on the screen, never mind.
Put it on the screen.
So Rick does a little bit of kind of films the birds that land near his property. He used to live kind of further south on the shore of Lake Ontario, and he's moved further north now, living a bit more of a rustic lifestyle out in the middle of nowhere. So he covers things like he's got a cabin in his backyard and he's kind of upgrading that, if that's the right word for it, because it's kind of retro, right? 1931.
Yeah, it's actually a circa 1931 cabin, and I've restored it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of restoration videos on his channel, as well as birds and wildlife. Rick actually came across an elk fairly recently, didn't you?
Yep, yeah, I have a lot of wildlife on my channel. There's a little bit of restoration stuff on my channel. There's a little bit of hiking and adventure, nature.
Yeah, so link in the description and the name of the channel's on the screen, Casey Oingo. Go check it out, guys. Thanks for your support. Well, Spruce Bog was a bit of a bust for us. There's a couple of locations that were supposed to be quite hot for birds, but we really didn't see too much. So we're now walking along Opongo Road. It is closed at this time of the year. As you can see, it's very snowy, so it's not really suitable for vehicles and it doesn't get ploughed. But apparently there's a bridge a little bit further down this way, about 1 kilometre. So we have a bit of a walk ahead. It is supposed to be a good location. Shall I make promises that we can't fulfill? Red poles have been seen there. Let's see if we can pick up a common red pole. Maybe a hoary if we're particularly lucky. We still have about half the day to go to try to find some more birds at Algonquin Park. We are also staying in Huntsville overnight, so we will return briefly tomorrow as well before we have to head home. So we still have plenty of time to try and add a few more species. Let's see how it goes. We were a bit worried that we'd traipsed for a snowy kilometre for absolutely nothing as we looked out towards Turtle Rock, but then Rick spotted a bird fly silently in behind us in that way that Canada jays do. The first bird we saw landed on a wire, and you can hear me call out his name based on the bands that he wears on his legs. Green over yellow left, blue over silver right. This is a 9-plus-year-old male bird. We saw 4 Canada jays in total, 2 breeding pairs that must tolerate each other in the face of human food handouts. This one is another male of at least 13 years of age, and this is that same 13-year-old male bird again. Out of the 4 birds, he was definitely the most gregarious, not afraid to get close to us at all. I actually spoke quite a lot about Canada jays in my last Algonquin video from November 2023, so go check that one out if you want to know more, not just about Canada jays in general, but some specifics about the Algonquin population in particular. After the visit from the Canada jays, we hand-fed some more chickadees for a while. We began to make our way back to the drivable portion of Opongo Road, but on the way, we watched a beaver comically wrestling with its current favourite tree branch, manhandling it across the path in front of us.
Yes, beaver.
Beaver.
Yeah, he chewed that tree, yeah.
Then we were excited to see this white-winged crossbill, another new bird showing nicely in the top of this tree. And if that wasn't thrilling enough, check this out. A really lovely example of a male spruce grouse doing its spruce grouse thing. Great looks at this amazing bird with that contrasting black and white plumage and that bold red eyebrow.
Well guys, I was a little bit worried that Opongo Lake might not show anything up for us, but it's been pretty good. Spruce, grouse, white-winged crossbill, both new ones for the year, and pretty comical situation with a beaver dragging a branch across the trail, so that was pretty cool too. I think it's time for us to take a bit of a lunch break, so we'll be back in a moment, stay tuned.
We started making lunch and charging batteries on the back of Rick's truck. Outdoor Ontario fare like kielbasa, cheese, cinnamon rolls, that kind of thing, and coffee, of course, albeit freeze-dried. However, suddenly Sara spotted a wonderful animal. This American marten, nicknamed the pine marten in Canada, but not to be confused with the European pine marten, didn't stick around too long. But it was an absolute joy to see it. Beautiful animal. I'm not sure how we're going to top that sighting now, but anyway, we continued with our now late lunch and we spent some time talking to other nature and bird lovers that were in the area. While we ate, a pair of purple finches took position above us, adding another bird to our year.
Purple finch.
And yet another raven carefully watched over us. We wanted to see a black-backed woodpecker at Algonquin Park, but it seemed we'd just missed one in this location. So we decided to move on to the logging museum trail as we'd seen it there in previous years. Looking around the parking lot and the trailhead led to nothing. It was almost silent at the logging trail. And we were running out of time.
Okay guys, we're beginning to lose the light at this point, so I think it's time for us to say goodbye for now. Sara and I will be back in the park again tomorrow, but for Rick, that's the end of his weekend. He's going to head home now. It was nice to see you again, Rick.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. We'll do it again sometime.
We had lots of nice sightings today. The pine marten was pretty awesome, and we saw lots of new birds this year. I think 7 or 8 new species altogether, so it's been a pretty productive day so far. We'll be coming back again tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to add some more birds to our list. Thanks for watching so far, guys. We'll be back shortly.
Now, normally at this point in the video, I'd be talking about the next morning, but when we were leaving the park on Saturday night, we came across these ladies. Our first time seeing turkeys this year, so it's a new bird species. Let's skip forward to the following morning. It was even more snowy this morning as we drove back to the park. Once again, we made a quick pit stop at the West Gate before heading to our first stop. Good morning everyone, we are back at Algonquin Park. It's Sunday morning. We have a few spare hours to explore the park a little bit further. Yesterday far exceeded our expectations. We saw more species than perhaps we had even hoped for, and a few mammal encounters too, so that was really cool. We're going to see if we can add maybe 1 or 2 more species today. I don't want to set expectations too high, it might not work out, but maybe a red poll, maybe that black-backed woodpecker. That would be really helpful because this is one of the best spots to see it this far south. Let's take a look around the Spruce Bog boardwalk, which is where we are right now. Just kind of the beginning and end pieces, that's where most of the bird activity tends to happen. We walked out into the open, looking across the Spruce Bog to a winter wonderland as a snowstorm rolled in. While the snow fell, we could hear white-winged crossbills singing as they circled above the clouds, and a couple of different individuals performed their operettas from the peaks of some black spruce trees.
It's really starting to snow now. It looks really pretty out here. We're seeing and hearing lots of white-winged crossbills flying over, and a couple of them have perched quite nicely for us. Saw that bird yesterday, but it's a nice bird, so it's good to see it again. I think we're going to start heading back from Spruce Bog and figure out where we're going next. Visitor centre?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if there's anything that's reappeared on the deck today, see if there's anything nice there.
We turned back through the trees, but suddenly heard the nasal retort of a very familiar bird that we haven't seen yet this year.
We hear a red-breasted nuthatch. We just saw it fly, actually. I need to catch it on camera, obviously, for it to count towards the 300 bird challenge. We're going to try and track that down. Not a rare bird, but it happens to be one that we haven't seen yet, so that'll be another one we can hopefully add if it will show itself.
This shot of a red-breasted nuthatch won't be winning any awards, but it's enough to prove that we saw the bird. We saw a few more birds in the Spruce Bog car park, including closer looks at a couple of purple finch, as well as yet more pine siskins, black-capped chickadees, and this downy woodpecker. There were also blue jays taking advantage of the seeds that someone had left on a handrail. We moved on to the visitors centre. Now, perhaps it was bad timing. There were lots of goldfinches and evening grosbeaks out the front. But out on the deck at the back of the visitors centre, there were tons of blue jays that were fending off the advances of any other bird species.
Okay folks, nothing new at the visitor centre, but nice views out over the valley there with the snow starting to come down. I think we have 2 more stops. One of those is going to be Opongo Lake, because that worked out quite well for us yesterday. We're going to try it again. Maybe one more stop after that, we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned, we'll be back in a second.
We moved on, slogging our way along a logging road not far from Opongo Road, which we had visited yesterday, searching the trees for a very special bird.
We have a lead on the black-backed woodpecker. A naturalist that works here at Algonquin Park told us that he saw it up this logging trail. Now we've just heard what we think might be the black-backed woodpecker tapping. It's quite a slow, deliberative tap. But these trees are quite dense, so I'm not sure if we're going to find it, but we're fairly confident we heard it. And there's certainly some trees in here that would be good candidates for a black-backed woodpecker that likes to kind of dig into the tree. Peel the bark back, look for beetles that live in the tree, or beetle larvae.
We walked about a kilometre or so and continued looking, but
unfortunately, a bust on the black-backed woodpecker. It has been seen over the last couple of days, just not by us, by the sounds of things. We followed up a couple of leads, but we haven't been able to find it. That probably means a return trip to Algonquin Park at some point later this year. In the meantime, I think we have one more stop. We're going to head west, back through the park again, so stay tuned for that.
we drove on and pulled over into one of the many parking areas off Highway 60 to have a look around. Next thing we knew, a couple of ravens came to investigate us. This large corvid is a glossy black colour all over. It has a large beak with nasal bristles, and they have larger feathers around the throat, which can be erected, especially by the males, during displays of dominance. Ravens are very adaptable, and they have wide-ranging diets, which means that they can be found throughout the northern hemisphere in a variety of different habitats, from forest to desert to tundra to urban environments too, where they've been increasingly learning how to thrive alongside humans. Intelligence in animals can be complex to interpret, but there's no doubt that ravens are up there in the brainiac stakes. They can solve problems, and they're socially intelligent. They can remember their interactions with other ravens, as well as other animals including humans, and they can make judgments on the fairness of those interactions. They've been observed calling wolves to come to an animal carcass. Ravens can't open a carcass, but the wolves can. They'll come over, they'll open it, and then the ravens can also feast on it. They're really interesting animals, and it was a great experience to be able to get so close to these two individuals. Now it was almost time for us to leave the park. But we took a short drive around Mew Lake Campground on our last little look for any more birds. Just like when this video started, we saw finches feeding on the ground. Take a look at this mixed flock of birds. We have the usual pine siskins and a male red crossbill, but there's also several common redpoll. We found some at last. A fairly common bird up here, but one that we've struggled to find until now. Yay, another lifer.
Really good weekend at Algonquin Park, really kind of surpassed our expectations of how many new birds we'll see. Also just had nice interactions and got some good footage of some ravens there too. As you can see, it's getting a little bit darker, so it's time for us to go home. We've got a 3.5 hour drive ahead of us. Thank you all for watching this video. If you could please do the nice things, like the video, comment on the video, and most of all, if you could please subscribe, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you for watching, guys. We may or may not be back next week. We might take a week off. We'll see how it goes. We've got some family commitments. Thank you for all of your support. Thanks for watching. Happy birding. See you soon. Bye.